Hi, parents. So I want to run through some of the key areas, questions you may have regarding reopening. So I'm going to do that right now. All right. Social distancing. As you may know, already know that our schools will be having student desks 6 feet apart. We'll be practicing social distance guidelines as we're walking in the hallways. There's as much as possible one-way hallways where it makes sense. There's going to be a mask requirement for all students, parents, anyone in the building. There will be mask breaks also incorporated into in our classroom. Overall, we are going to have just education on masks, on hygiene, on bathroom protocols with our classrooms. So that's going to be embedded in our classrooms, and we're going to talk through that with the kids. Hand sanitizers, they're going to be installed throughout building areas. Hand hygiene, and so washing your hand and hand sanitizers are considered hand hygiene. And so whether there's sinks in the bathroom, whether there's sinks in the classroom, some classrooms do have sinks. Kids will have the opportunity to wash their hands in the classroom. If there are no sinks in the classroom, kids will have opportunity to use the hand sanitizers as well. All students will have the opportunity to have we have face masks for students that forget them. For small group instruction, we will have face shields for students as well. Teachers will have face shields as an option. Teachers obviously will be wearing face masks too. What's been told by the superintendent is that every family every day will complete a self-health assessment. Okay, we're going to get more details on that. As I continue, there are still quite a few things that are where they're pending, still planning, and I'm still waiting on, and they may change. So I just want you guys to know that as soon as I get that information, we want to put that out there for you. Okay, I'm reading from our notes and something that we're also going to be putting together for our families, which is our parent handbook, and it's going to have a couple pages on some of those COVID guidelines. All right. In terms of health and safety signage, that's going to be throughout the building. Okay, reminding you of whether it's social distancing or masks. No visitors or volunteers in the building. That includes first day of school, second day of school, last day of school events. So from here, the first marking period, that's how we're going to proceed. And we just want to make sure we're very clear on that, okay? In terms of having access to seeing what the classroom may look like and orientation, we're going to be working on another video to so you can at least get a sense of how a classroom looks like and what it's going to entail. All right. There is going to be a school isolation room, and that's a room where students are going to go when they are sick or showing symptoms of COVID-19. We are in the process of clarifying whether there are snacks or not in the classroom. Okay. The last I heard that there was no snacks, but we're clarifying that because we know that we can eat in the classroom when there's lunch. We can eat in the classroom when we're doing breakfast. So I guess the question is, why can we eat snack in the classroom? And we're clarifying that. I know that that was in the last pop-up meeting, it was said no snacks. So we want to clarify that, okay? And we'll get that out to you. In terms of technology, there is the initiative by the district for one-to-one devices for all students. There seems to be a back order on some of those devices. In terms of Strawberry Hill, right now, we will be able to have a one-to-one device for all grades 1 through 5. Kindergarten is where we're waiting for that shipment from the district, so we won't have day one one-to-one device for kindergarten students. We may have a few left over from the returns, but right now we do not have one-to-one yet until we get that shipment in. So we are relying on some of those families that already have a device at home. If they don't need to borrow the Chromebook, then we're going to try to determine a way, put another survey out or something like that to determine who needs to have a device borrowed from our school. Okay. There's the Wi-Fi hotspots. There is an initiative, a state initiative that gives free access to up to for 1 year to up to 2,500 families. And I'm not sure exactly what the eligibility is on that, but I would assume that it has something to do with, maybe it's free reduced lunch, things like that. But there are 2,500 families that I guess would be eligible for that state initiative. The application process is still something that we're working on, finding the details from the state. Okay. There's been a lot of confusion on PowerSchool, and I know the district has been telling you that we need to get access to PowerSchool. Yes, we will need to do that. Right now, we don't have that much information for parents on PowerSchool. So after you get on, you may notice that there's not that much information there for you, and that's okay. They're building it up, so I think it's important to have the access to PowerSchool and get that squared away, because I think in the future there's going to be more communication through that platform. So it's important that, once we get that information for you, username, password, that you do practice getting into PowerSchool and make sure that's working. But don't be surprised that once you're in, there's not much there right now. Okay. So yes, good to get in, practice. Don't be surprised that there's not much there. All right. So in terms of the hybrid model, distance learning model, okay, we sent out that learn to learn form or something, return to learn form. Sorry about that. And we need all the families to participate. That's the way we're going to plan. All right, so we're trying to get the word out, and we're going to have to start making phone calls for those parents that haven't let us know which model they're deciding. If you have more questions on the reopening plan, I know there is a dedicated email to that, and that's SPS reopening at stanfordct.gov. Okay, SPS reopening at stanfordct.gov. All right. So if you choose, for example, you choose the distance learning model, I think we have said this before, but in case you didn't know, you choose a distance learning model, you will be part of like a distance learning academy, and you won't necessarily be part of the Strawberry Hill IB curriculum. You'll be grouped in under Stanford Public Schools umbrella. Okay, you don't lose your slot here at our school. You don't lose your spot at all, so you don't need to worry about that. All right. Let's just say that we go into distance. You choose the distance learning option, and 3 weeks later, the entire district goes to distance learning. You stay in the distance learning academy until the end of the marking period. Okay, and then you can come back to probably at the beginning of 2021, if we are continuing to be distance learning or not, you would come back to the Strawberry Hill IB model. If we're continuing to be distance learning, if we're back to the in-person model, obviously you can choose to be in the in-person, or you can continue to stay in distance learning. All right, it's very complicated, I know, and again, I'm just trying to kind of go through some of these points thoroughly, but also quickly enough. All right. So in terms of cleaning, there's going to be a protocol of cleaning the bathrooms a minimum of twice a day. High touch areas, banisters, doorknobs, things like that have to be cleaned daily. And in terms of desktops, all the desktops will be cleaned. That's not the PCs. I'm talking about actual desks. The top of the desks will be cleaned. Okay. We talked about mask breaks. We talked about the distance learning academy and such. In terms of contact tracing, I think there still needs a lot to be determined there from the health department as to and recommendations from the health department and health committee as to exactly how that it's going to look like, if indeed there is a need for contact tracing. All right, and that's going to be a decision from the health committee, health department from the city. If a teacher is quarantining with her class, and that would be if a student is or students are showing signs of COVID-19 or confirmed to have COVID-19 and have gone home in that classroom, then the class and the teacher would quarantine. And this is assuming that the teacher's not sick. The teacher quarantining with a class would be doing distance learning with that classroom for the time period that they're quarantining. I believe it's around 14 days. Okay. In terms of outdoor, the Playscape area, the Playscape is definitely off limits. They're not allowing us to use the Playscape that we have newly built. So sorry about that, but we are going to work on trying to come up with some games that we could do. Be creative. Simply being outside, and if it's taking a walk, if it's doing things that are social distancing, and again, remember, not sharing an object, not not touching each other. The social distancing is a big piece to this. So we're going to come up with different ways of determining how we're going to have that outside time, recess, and how that's going to look like. All right. So please wait for our direction on this. Please don't start bringing in items yet. Because that's going to cause some confusion. Right now, we're not doing basketball in the basketball court. We're not, so it just causes right now more confusion if we start bringing in our own items. And then because we can't share them, because they can't be shared from one student to the other, it's going to complicate things. All right. So please wait for our direction on this. Right now, we are working on ways to have recess both outdoors and indoors, being creative. And obviously, it's not going to be the same thing. Okay. Where lunch is not going to be in the cafeteria, lunch is going to be in the classrooms. I alluded to that. Breakfast, we're going to develop a grab and go system from the cafeteria and maybe the hallways. We are going to be opening our doors at 8:45, no longer 8:30 for all of our students. Roscoe's still continuing to do their before school and after school programs. I believe it's 7:30 in the morning it starts, and I believe in the afternoons it goes from dismissal until 5:30, actually until 6 o'clock now. All right. So as I'm segueing into Roscoe, please make sure that you have reached out to Roscoe if you are looking for before school or after school servicing. Space is very limited, and given all the circumstances that are going on with families looking for daycare, please make sure that you do reach out for Roscoe. There is a Roscoe section on our webpage, and it has the information to contact them there, okay? So we were talking about lunch and that the meals were going to be delivered to the classrooms. And we're going to be working with Chartwell, who is the lunch service provider there, okay? And just making sure that our families are applying for the free reduced lunch application. It's important that we do that every year. If you are eligible for that, or even if you're not sure, it doesn't hurt to apply to and have that free reduced application lunch application already set and done. Okay, you could do that now. The Family Resource Services from the district and the central office does have that application. If you don't know where that is, you can call us and we can give you a link to that application and help you there. All right. So that pretty much covers most of the items that I have. I'm going to have Sandra cover anything else that I may have missed. Okay, so Sandra's going to go and continue to talk to some of the points and also maybe address some of the frequently asked questions as well. All right, thank you so much.
Hello families, it's Mrs. Carlton, Assistant Principal at Strawberry Hill School. I hope this video finds you well. I just wanted to give you a few updates on the safety measures and precautions that we will be taking for the opening of the 2020 school year. One of the precautions is to reduce the class sizes, which is part of the purpose of the hybrid model. In most classrooms, student capacity will be 13 people. So that includes having a teacher, a paraeducator, or any other adults in the building as well. One of the questions you might have is, what does recess look like? On days where the weather is appropriate, we have identified several spots on our campus where recess can take place. We have blacktop areas in our new adjacent to our new backfield. The backfield, we also have our front field area where students can gather with their teacher to engage in no contact, socially distant games. The playground equipment will not be accessible, meaning the playscapes that are in the back at this time. What does lunch look like? Chartwells will be delivering meals throughout the building, and students will be eating in their classrooms. They will be at their desks 6 feet apart, and they will have engaged in some type of hand hygiene prior to eating, whether it be the use of hand sanitizers or hand washing. One of the questions we received was, will siblings be on the same schedule, including siblings in middle school and high school? If they attend Stanford Public Schools, the answer is yes. If they attend outside of Stanford Public Schools and we don't have that information, if you would send to us when the older siblings are attending, we can align so that all children can be on the same schedule in each family that lives in the same house. There's a question about selecting days that your child goes to school. Unfortunately, we can't honor personal requests. We are going to follow the schedule for high school and middle school, which will be predominantly determined by last name alphabet. And we will assign your child to match their older sibling. If they don't have an older sibling, we are developing a schedule based on particular services or supports students might need on a given day, and so unfortunately we cannot honor personal requests at this time. There's another question about bus transportation. Buses will be provided for all students. The bus routes and schedules will go out the weekend before school starts. Each bus driver will have received training. There will be masks available. Students must wear masks on buses, and if they've forgotten one will be provided. Dr. Lucero is working with transportation to hire bus monitors, so hopefully buses will have those monitors, but students will be asked to separate seats throughout the bus. There'll be a decreased number of students riding each bus. I just want to clarify cohorts. There was a question of how dismissal and passing in the hallway will work if students are in cohorts. As Dr. Lucero and our Director of Health had explained, we do have barriers to protect against COVID. The first barrier is our mask, and everyone will be wearing masks. The second barrier is social distancing. If you're walking past someone at 6 feet or greater in a hallway and you are passing only in a matter of a few seconds, there is very, very minimal risk. So as students move through the hallway, we're going to have as much as possible one direction hallways, but students will be gathered in areas for bus and for car pickup. The car pickup will be primarily gathered outdoors for the older grade and in the cafeteria and hallway for the younger grades. Since we are having half of the number of students on a day and we have those large spaces and we're spreading them out by grade, students will be able to maintain that 6 feet of distance and they'll be wearing their mask. And hopefully this will only be for a period of a few minutes up to possibly 15 minutes. Many of you have been working to try to create your students' PowerSchool account. Last year, student IDs and access passwords were emailed home. If you missed that information, you can send an email to one of our OSSs and we can reply to that. At this point, there is not information pertinent on PowerSchool. It will be added and developed as we go throughout the school year. If you need to change any information from something that you had responded previously on the survey, the Return to Learn form, for example, you may not have checked that your child needs a device and you now realize that they do, please just send an email to us here at Strawberry School. You can address it to myself, Sandra Carlton, scarlton@stanfordct.gov, Mr. Rodriguez, or one of our OSSs, Miss Alfano or Miss Danella, so that we can update the form here at school that we have at Strawberry Hill. There were several questions about whether or not the school or PTO could purchase some pop-up canopy tents to create outdoor spaces, and the answer is that we are looking into purchasing a few tents to set up outside to help with students waiting for outside dismissal, different things that we might want to use them for. But keep in mind that we will have 32 classes and we are going to be using outdoor space for multiple purposes. You know, there is a limit to how much space we have. There also is a lot of concern about you know, how often we would be able to use those particular areas given whether it's raining, too hot, too cold. So we don't have an official plan for that. We are still investigating some of those options. There's a lot of questions about asking when will we find out the information about our child's teacher, whether they're on the blue-green schedule, and other information about opening day. A reminder that Stanford Public Schools does have on their website, as well as our school website, the updated calendar for the hybrid schedule, as well as the district calendar. You will need to refer to both. We will be sending out all opening day information, including assignments, calendars, and color day assignments the week before school starts. And instead of it coming in the mail this year, we will be sending that information electronically to the emails that we have in PowerSchool. So if you do not have an email, or you know your email account is not correct, please reach out to us again here at Strawberry Hills so that we can make sure we can get you the correct information. Several other questions are referring to cleaning guidelines, protocols, as well as what agents will be used in the building. And Kevin McCarthy, who's in our facilities department, along with a third-party agency hired to evaluate all of the schools, have been around the schools and taking a look and working with custodians to develop those schedules. All chemicals and agents used in the building have to meet EPA guidelines, as well as the state green building agent list. So those all have to be approved, and that will be the chemicals and cleaners used on the building. They are working together alongside with the custodians to develop the protocol, but the building will be cleaned on a daily basis. There's limited activities happening after school that gives the custodial staff an opportunity to make sure to clean the entire building. Bathrooms will be cleaned twice a day at the minimum. High-touch areas will be wiped down daily, such as doorknobs, banisters. All desks will be wiped each day, and you know, the exact schedule for that is something, like I said, being developed alongside facilities and our custodians at this time. There is a question about PPE, how much has been received to the school, what are the dates expected to receive. all of those supplies? And the answer is it's coming in every day as central office receives things. So for example, a couple days ago, we received large packets of face shields that look like this, that all staff will have, and there will be a number of face shields in addition for some students for small group instruction, and they are worn over the face, okay, so that extra layer of protection. We also have received some of the types of signage that will go up around the school. So there's not a particular date, but things are coming in, as we approach the opening of the school day to be prepared for our students on September 8th. There are many, many questions regarding Roscoe before and after care, on alternate day care. There will be Roscoe before and after care. There will be Roscoe for some students who have elected for that on the opposing days of the blue-green schedule. And we have identified several classrooms that have been licensed for Roscoe, as well as our gym and some other additional spaces. But if you have specific questions, I please refer you to emailing Roscoe themselves about payment schedules, sliding scale, hours, number of students. All of that information should go directly to the Roscoe organization. I know many people are anxious to come into the building. Unfortunately, at this time, we cannot allow parents, visitors, or volunteers. We are working to create an additional video that will give you some insight into how the classrooms look and other spaces throughout the building, including the isolation room. But students will not be able to attend parents will not be able to attend with their students into the school building. And I know that's going to be difficult this year. That is going to be a big adjustment. We as the staff will do everything that we can to support the children coming into the building and making them feel comfortable. We're hoping that sharing the videos and getting a chance to look at those spaces ahead of time will help. The next question asks, will children have essentials? Yes, they will have essentials. They will have world language, gym, music, and art. Those essentials will take place either outdoors or in the child's classroom, and the essentials will move to that classroom. The activities that students will be involved in will be modified according to guidelines. For example, in music, we can't have students singing. So the music teachers are working on lots of different activities regarding the history of music, learning beats, rhythms, how to read notes, creating music on programs like GarageBand. And in art, students will be using individualized materials. In gym, the students will either be spread out across our large new field or in another outdoor space where they can work through different types of activities or exercises that have been developed by our PE staff. There is another question about, has the city come to evaluate the ventilation systems? Yes, they have. The ventilation systems at Strawberry Hill are run by a central computer, and they are going to be maintaining the circulation of the air, not just when people are in the building, but on a 24-hour basis. They have looked to adjust vents in places like bathrooms and throughout the school to make sure that the airflow is meeting the new standards as per the COVID guidelines. So there's another question, will students be able to bring their own lunch bags and water bottles, or will they will they have to use disposable items? Students can bring their own lunch boxes and water bottles. In fact, I greatly encourage the water bottles. All water fountains will be turned off. The water dispensing machines that Mr. Rodriguez mentioned earlier in the video will be allowed, but you can't drink from those if you don't have a container. So we do encourage students bringing their own containers for water and drinks from home. Again, I think Mr. Rodriguez spoke a little bit about bathrooms, but we will have tape and signage on the floors to indicate that only up to 3 students in a bathroom at a time. There are either 3 stalls or stalls and urinals and sinks in each bathroom, and there will be up to 3 students waiting in the hallway 6 feet distance on markers outside of the bathroom at all times. Our teaching staff has been working together, each grade level, to try to develop schedules for the bathroom, and obviously students who need to use the bathroom when they need to use it will be allowed, but we're going to be carefully monitoring from each classroom who will be in using the bathroom at that given time. Kindergarten classrooms do have a bathroom within the room. So Dr. Yoon and Dr. Lucero, our superintendent, as well as other health professionals, have been working very closely alongside our nursing staff to develop specific protocols to address the health of the students in the building. So those guidelines, I don't have a written copy yet, but my understanding right now is that if a child were not feeling well, they would let their teacher know, or if a teacher observes that there is an issue, a health-related issue with a child, they would send that child to the nurse. The nurse would at that time evaluate where that child is going. Are they entering the nurse's office? So for example, I twisted my ankle or bumped my arm and I need an ice pack and it's hurting. The nurse would invite that child into the nurse's office to be evaluated and determined what type of treatment would be needed. If the child comes down with a bloody nose or a paper cut or anything like that, again, the nurse would evaluate and determine that that child would be invited into the nurse's office and again treated with whatever necessary measures. If children come for regular medications or other types of health-related concerns, then that's where it would be addressed. If a child is showing symptoms of COVID, whether that be fever, cough, whatever those symptoms are determined by the health guidelines, that child would be shown into a separate isolation room. And, you know, isolation room has somewhat of a negative connotation, but it is a separate space away from other children who might be resting in the nurse, like I said, who had that, you know, bumped ankle or bloody nose or, you know, other things that we know are not COVID related. And it would be the nurse who would have on full PPE determining the next steps for that child, and more than likely it would be a phone call and a need for that child to go home and be evaluated by a physician. Again, the very specifics of that protocol are still being completed, and like I said, the health department staff are doing that training, but Mr. Rodriguez and I will be very directly involved with monitoring the health office, and we work very closely with our nurse Josette Grimaldi, and she is wonderful at communicating with all of you and with us, and as we move forward, if there are additional questions, you can direct them to us. I believe this was answered, but this is a multi-point question. Disposable masks will be made available for students who forget theirs. They will need to have a mask in order to get on the bus or to enter the building. Once they enter the building, there will be hand sanitizer stations set up throughout the building. They will need to do some type of hand hygiene, either sanitizing hands or going into the classroom, if there's a classroom sink there, washing hands at the beginning of the day. And if students are not well, they do need to stay home. And how safe is it for children and adults to wear masks for long periods of time? I'm not an health expert, but what has been shared with me by the health experts is that there's no risk to your health to be wearing a mask for long periods of time. Mr. Rodriguez and our OSSs and staff have been here. Sorry, I'm looking for my mask. And we've been working together this whole summer, and I have had my mask on for long periods of time throughout the day. And what we try to do is have mask breaks, and we'll do that for students too. If they are socially distanced and it is an appropriate time, whether it be eating lunch, if the teacher is maybe doing the alphabet drill with a younger group and she wants to see the formation of the mouth as they do that for a few minutes seated at their desks, at least 6 feet apart, then they will take off their mask for that short period of time. When obviously we're moving through the hallways, going to the bathroom, entering or exiting the building, moving about the classroom even for some reason, masks will be on. So there's a lot of concern about our young kindergartners entering our school for the first time and not knowing the adults that they are going to, and dropping them off in the car line or sending them on the bus. And being a parent of 3 children, I am thinking a lot about those feelings that we're all going through and how we can make sure that we are greeting our students. And yes, the question is, will there be someone to guide my child to their classroom? The answer is yes. We will be sure that we will have plenty of people out for kindergartners and all of our students on the first day of school to help guide them into their classrooms that first day. Now remember that we have a decreased amount of students entering the building, so it's half of the class will be coming in on a given day, whether it's a blue day or a green day. And so that should help us with being able to support the students and the children as they enter the building for the first time. All right, we have a question about food allergies, and I have spoken to Nurse Josette, and one of the things that we are going to be doing is that all staff will have trainings at the beginning of this year before school starts on the Heimlich maneuver, on food safety, food allergies, and how to respond. We do have a very complete and thorough list of students who have food allergies, and that's distributed to the staff ahead of time. When students will be eating in the classroom, if we know that there is a particular allergy, the teacher will be very aware. All students will be 6 feet apart, eating at their own space, at their own desk. And so we will respond accordingly to that allergy and make sure that there's absolutely no sharing of any food. And if there, at this time, if there's any airborne allergies, we need to be aware of that. And if it's something that's not recorded from a doctor with our nurse, please make sure that you do have a doctor's note and it is shared with our nurse prior to the start of school. I apologize for any repetition, but I want to make sure that I'm answering everyone's questions. Will parents have an option to choose face mask or face shield? No, all students must have a face mask. The face shield will be used by the adults if there needs to be an additional barrier, and like I said, for small group instruction, or for one-to-one evaluations with a teacher and a student are working in a closer space, we'll have the face mask as well as the face shield for protection. There is a question about quarantining prior to school starting. There is a quarantine guideline that was released by the governor in the state that if you have visited any of the states that are on our Connecticut's list, then you need to quarantine for 14 days prior to the start of school. So for example, if you are in one of those states on vacation, prior to September 8th, you would need to quarantine before coming back to school. There is a question about what if a child is having difficulty breathing or discomfort breathing, wearing the mask at any given point in time. If that were to happen, we would allow that child to take a mask break once they were socially distanced from other people in the building. We would probably contact the school nurse to evaluate if there's any other issues with breathing for that individual. So there was a question about plexiglass and will it arrive in time for school. I'm just going to show you an example. This is Miss Alfano's desk, and there is plexiglass that has been hung opposite her desk, and they are working to install that around the building. There is a question about what does a classroom look like that's been set up, and this is a classroom that we have spaced out the desks and the chairs so that they are all 6 feet apart. So in any given room, the capacity is 13 people in our building, and that includes the teacher and any para. So this is what an example of what a classroom looks like with those desks and chairs spaced apart. There are questions about what kind of evaluations will the school be doing. This one says in the first week or so of school. The state is yet to release the guidelines for the expectations for mandated evaluations such as DIBELS or MClass. There will be no formal evaluations the first week of school or so. It's very important to us, the social emotional health of our students. So our teachers will be primarily focusing on developing connections with the students, making them comfortable, going through routines and procedures and what's different and how things are different in the new guidelines with COVID and keeping safety as a priority. As we move forward into the school year and we develop exactly an understanding of when, which assessments we will be administering and when, we will be sure to share that with our families.
Parents, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. As you know, and as I said earlier, and I know Ms. Carlton has said it, our plan is based on conditions on the ground and what the authorities, health committees basically dictate. And this could change. So I just want to make sure that we're cognizant of that, and we'll be communicating to you as soon as possible when there are changes. We're really working hard to make sure that we stay safe, that we build an environment that's, as much as we can, that's promoting caring, education, inquiry, the IB philosophy. That's something that's going to continue, and we're going to be finding new ways to do that. So whether it's here in the classroom or virtually. This is going to be new for all of us. Thank you for continuing to work with us, and we'll, again, be in communication. Thank you so much.